How I got a $100,000 oil and gas corporate banking job at 23 with a starting salary of $52,500 at 21. I worked for a regional bank called BVBA Compass for 3 years in corporate banking. In my second full year of working there, I was making over $100,000 per year at 23 years old. I'll talk about the full story of how I did it starting from the beginning to the end. The beginning is when I graduated from college at 21 to 6 months into the job where I increased my income to $86,000 at 22 years old, into the final negotiating story that got me to above $100,000 at 23. Spoiler, the negotiation was a very messy one. So with that, let's just get started. I graduated college at 21 with majors in finance, economics, and minors in math, computer science, and accounting. I originally wanted to go into investment banking because I learned you could make $150,000 straight out of college at 21, 22, 23 years old. But I failed every single investment banking interview. But even then, I always knew I wanted to get into banking and financial services. One day during winter break in my senior year, I saw a banking rotational program called the LEAP program by BBVA Compass. BBVA Compass is a Spanish regional bank doing business in the southern region of the United States. And LEAP stood for Learning, Evaluation, Application, and Placement. And as a side note, they don't offer this program anymore. But anyway, the program is where they rotated us around the different areas of the bank like internal audit, risk, and credit. And long story short, I got a job offer after about 4 rounds of interviews with HR and department employees. And at the end, the salary was the lowest salary offer that I got at $52,500 base plus a $4,000 signing bonus, net of which was $2,500. In my senior year, I had offers from Deloitte to work in their valuation department at $63,000 base plus a $5,000 bonus, and at my junior year valuation internship in which the offer was a $65,000 base plus a $2,500 signing bonus. So even though the salary offer was the lowest salary offer that I got, I took the BVBA Compass's job offer anyway because for one, I was really worn out and tired from interviewing, and for two, I really wanted to get into banking and financial services. I also thought that I could be a big fish in a small pond, so I signed with them. So after I graduated from college, I started working for BVBA Compass in Birmingham, Alabama, which is their headquarters. And when I started, I hit the ground running as soon as possible. I talked to as many LEAP program alumni and department employees to learn about the available opportunities that I could take advantage of. And 4 months into the rotational program, I learned that the company had an oil and gas lending department in Houston, Texas. I was rotating in risk in Birmingham at the time, and I really wanted to get back to Texas. So I tried my absolute best to get into the oil and gas department. I called the executive in Houston, I talked to HR, and I had a LEAP program alumni contact at the bank vouch for me at the time. So the effort paid off, and I secured an 8-week rotation there. I even paid $1,500 out of pocket for rent and transportation to rotate there for 2 months. I worked overtime, and I got everyone to like me. I also did way more work than they expected of me. So long story short, the Houston boss liked me enough to recommend me to hire me full time. There's just one problem. I still had one last final interview to pass with her boss. And in the interview, his final question was, if I walk out that door right now, what's the one thing that you want me to remember about you? And after a 20-second pause of what felt like forever, I just nervously said, I'm a blank canvas ready to paint my picture-perfect life, and the BVBA Compass Oil and Gas Lending Department is where I want to start painting my picture-perfect life. And it worked. They gave me an offer at the end. So they increased my pay from $52,500 base plus no bonus to $56,000 base plus a whopping $30,000 bonus potential, of which 95% was paid out in its first year. I had just turned 22 at the time. So of course, I took the offer. And so for that entire year straight, I put in long hours without complaining, day in, day out, making sure my bosses were happy, making sure my coworkers were happy, and making sure that everybody else ate before I ate. And this is where the story gets interesting. Then 9 months in, I get a LinkedIn message from a recruiting firm representing another European bank. The European bank was hiring for another credit analyst position in their oil and gas banking lending group too. Same thing that I was doing, but I was thinking more pay. So again, long story short, after 6 months of interviews, they gave me an offer. $80,000 base plus an undisclosed bonus. I tried my hardest to get what the bonus was, and I asked them twice of what the bonus was. Both times they refused to answer me. And real quick, my personal banking resume that got me to this point is in the description below. It's just $25 and I recommend it for anyone who also wants a $100,000 job. Anyway, let's get back to the story. And so although it was a risk to accept a job with an undisclosed bonus, and I also made a huge mistake with the negotiation, I took the job offer anyway. And looking back, it actually would have been my biggest career mistake ever. But anyway, I specifically waited until BVBA Compass paid me the $30,000 bonus, native which $20,000 went straight into my bank account. And then the week after, I asked my BVBA Compass's boss for a meeting, to which she said yes, but then she immediately said, "I hope you're not telling me you want to quit." I just said, and she looked super surprised and immediately asked who it was, what position it was, and how much I was getting paid, and much more. I answered all her questions truthfully, and I don't know if that was a mistake, but that was my decision. And in the end, she ended the meeting with, she started smiling, and then she goes, "You know, my boss really likes you, so just calm down and wait a minute." I mean, I didn't expect anything. I had one foot already out the door anyway, but then in just 4 hours of her talking, she comes back with a counteroffer. And she straight up offered $70,000 base plus a $35,000 bonus potential. And she offered to give me a title raise. And she offered to raise my grade level 2 levels up from where I was already at. It was a good offer, but I needed to be in writing, so I asked for it in writing. That was my way of stalling, plus I actually really needed it in writing to make sure that they were serious. And this is where the story gets more interesting. Then I told the competing bank about the offer. And when I did, they didn't give me a counteroffer straight away like BVBA Compass did. Oh no, they took their time. It took them 4 entire days to increase their offer, which I was kind of bothered by, but I brushed it off. But when they gave me the counter offer, they tried to strong arm me with it. So what happened was, we talked on a Friday and he told me that he would call me after the weekend. So I said, okay. But then they went back on their word and they called me the day of on that Friday. I wasn't even ready to negotiate that day. My mind was already mentally clocked out from any negotiation. They went back on their word because they wanted to blindside me, to catch me by surprise. Because on that Friday, I disclosed to them that I was really stressed because I didn't know what I was going to do with the job offers yet. And then when I answered the phone, they didn't give me a clean offer. They made a conditional offer. They called and asked me, "Hey Sang, I just got off the phone with the compensation committee. If we raise our offer to $90,000, can I get a yes?" They conditioned the offer on me saying yes before I see the actual written offer. At this point, I was insulted and I was furious. Because for one, they refused to tell me how much their bonus would be, not even a range. So I was already taking a risk by taking a job with an undisclosed bonus potential. It could have been 0 for all I know. And they wanted me to take even more risk in that they wanted me to make a decision on the spot without knowing all the crucial details that are important to me to make a decision on my career. They didn't even give me a chance to discuss other points like how would this affect my starting date, etc. To me, this was downright coercion, and I actually wanted to sue them over potential discriminatory hiring practices, but I was too poor at the time to sue. So I just politely, quietly, and respectfully told them, "I'd just like to stay where I'm at, thank you." He was thrown aback and tried to hide his shock. He just said, that's okay. I mean, like I said, our department is growing." I just said, okay, and I hung up. But the story doesn't end there though. It gets even more interesting. Their HR department calls me the Tuesday thereafter. Of course I refused to answer. Now that I defied them, I can only imagine how much worse that they would treat me thereafter. I just sent them an email saying, "Yeah, sorry guys, I didn't know my company would give me a counteroffer," and then I just left it at that. The story still doesn't end there. 2 days later, they used a recruiting firm they hired to tell me that now they're recruiting for an analyst or associate role. Associate is the next rung of the ladder of my career. And keep in mind, during the interview and negotiation process, they specifically assured me that they couldn't alter any part of the offer. They were very specific in telling me that. And now all of a sudden they could. So now I was beyond furious. They downright harassed me twice by contacting me even after I already walked away. And they were using bait, fraud and coercion tactics just for them to fulfill their wants of putting me in my place. I was even more furious that I was too poor to have enough money to be able to sue them at that point. I was too poor and I only had a net worth of about $100,000 at this point. I just politely messaged back the recruiting firm and told them, yeah, sorry guys, I just went through an interview with them and it didn't work out. I don't want to be silenced anymore and I want to be honest for my viewers because I want you guys to be educated on how some companies work. What really goes on behind the scenes so that my viewers can be prepared if something like this happens to you. There are great companies out there to work for, but there sure are bad ones too. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm blacklisted from being hired at the other bank ever again for the rest of my life. This negotiation taught me that companies will at the very least work in the gray area of the law during the hiring process. Because multi-billion-dollar companies know that you're not gonna sue them, and even if you do sue them, they have enough money to invest into a lawyer so that they can crush you. 99% of employees aren't millionaires and don't have enough money to sue. There are illegal companies out there, so it's more important than ever to stand our ground instead of letting our employers walk all over us. It's time to use the law to protect ourselves. I will always fight for the employee. But anyway, on a positive note, this promotion allowed me to be one of the youngest to get promoted into that position. If my story gave you value, smash the like and subscribe button. As a small creator like me, I can't exist without your support. And by smashing the like and subscribe button, this story and content will get recommended to more people who might need to hear the story. Hopefully my story helps out at least one person out there who is going through a negotiating process right now. Thank you for watching. Come back soon.